All right, welcome everyone to this week's episode of The Context. We have a great show today. Kelly Gage from Pipe17 is here to talk about agentic commerce, which I am super interested in learning a lot more about. As always, I'm joined by Darren Shepard, my co-founder at Obot. Darren and I are fresh back from last, I guess it was a week ago because I was on vacation, but 2 weeks ago from the New York MCP Dev Summit, the first one that was run by the AAIF, and it was fantastic. It was a great event, an enormous audience. I think we had over 1,000 people, 2 days, and there were 4 or 5 tracks going at all times. Tons and tons of wonderful conversations with people that are really using MCP in earnest. It was really interesting between the number of conversations about whether MCP was dead or MCP was bursting at the seams with life. It was kind of an interesting moment in the ecosystem. It felt like, and it turns out, as like most things, it kind of seems like both can be true at the same time. There's a lot of people who are engineers who are working in, coding assistants that really aren't using MCP at all at the moment as they do their daily work and as they build their apps. And then there's an enormous number of organizations who are trying to connect to traditional applications and data services and things like that are using MCPs as the primary interface for them.
I don't know, Shannon, do you have any takeaways or?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I just kept hearing over and over was like this interesting moment where you find, I mean, there was, I think there was like 40 exhibitors at the conference. Of good 15 or so were doing pretty similar things to what we're doing at Obot, where they're building MCP gateways, they're building MCP security, MCP management type of things. And like, there was a real company demand, like one of the, more so than even in London, the number of big Fortune 500 companies that came in and were like, okay, we have hit the point of MCP sprawl. I've got, some people who are, not using MCPs. They're kind of directly working with CLIs and APIs, but the amount of applications we have that, first of all, like we don't even have CLIs for, so it's not like we're going to go integrate with a CLI for things like, I don't know, our HR system, SAP, all this sort of apps. And so it was weird. It was this kind of like, on the one hand, there was definitely a feeling that skills and sort of CLI level integration was more efficient for a lot of developers when they're building agents. And then there was a feeling that for a vast number of workflows, MCPs were super critical, and that there was a lot happening at the MCP level to improve sort of context bloat and address it. So I don't know. What about you? Did you come away with a similar feel there?
Well, I got a very strong enterprise feel. So it's, because I'm on Twitter all the time, and it's, whatever's the hot new thing, people are talking about. And so there's always a lot of talk of like MCP's dead or whatever. And it's interesting being there and talking to like kind of real users and whatnot, and people in bigger companies where it's like, in an enterprise or these larger companies, I mean, they just have this kind of basic problem where it's like, well, I have all these data and services, like how do I hook it up to AI? And it's becoming more apparent to everyone. It's like, well, MCP is kind of the only reasonable solution. It's like, yeah, skills, one, I could rant forever about how like skills is in no way, like I think skills are amazing. Like it's a kind of a key innovation. But it's like, that really has nothing to do with, what your tool calling format. So it's like, they're not even like, so I like the solution seemed to be kind of like CLI, do your own thing, which is like, use whatever framework, like write your own code, or MCP. And so CLI is it's just not practical for a lot of things, because you just don't have a lot of, like, in all the various agent use cases, you don't necessarily have the ability to run CLI. Like that ends up being a very heavyweight agent. So it's like not a good use case. So then it's like, okay, well, roll your own versus MCP. And so that's what we're seeing a lot of people going towards MCP. Was a lot of people, started before MCP or they thought it was better. It was like, oh, it's easier. I can just do this thing, because the developer is like, well, I'll just use whatever framework and write some code. But then, that only goes for so long before it's like, crap, now we have all this stuff. So it's like, so MCP is like like the only reasonable path for like, larger companies are looking to hook up all this, stuff. But like, but having said that,
well, go ahead. Sorry,
I was just having said that, it's like it's in no way like a slam dunk where it's like, oh, it just works. There's still like it's good in terms of like the definition, but I still think the consumption of MCP, like that final hooking it up to your model, still has problems. But I think a lot of those problems are almost theoretical for a lot of people. Like when you look at specific use cases, it's like, oh, okay, I need these couple tools and it's going to work fine. But everyone's always looking at like, well, now I have thousands of them. Can I dynamically search and call? And those things are still like, I think we have solid patterns, but not good implementations yet. But
I think you're spot on, because it also seems to be reflected in adoption. Just the one thing that kept coming up when I talked to like kind of universally to everybody who's either building MCPs or having MCPs is that kind of the turn of the year was this moment of like things had kind of stagnated a little bit in the second half of last year. I think as sort of the developer craze around MCP maybe waned, but then suddenly come like January, like we saw it, like just OBOT downloads have doubled every month since December. And it's just like, what the hell, what's going on? Why are suddenly we're seeing this huge flush and half the ecosystem is saying MCPs are dead, and yet the amount of consumption is way up. And so that is those two pieces sort of really belie the idea that there's a better alternative out there. Because I think the truth is in the reality of adoption. You're just seeing like, yeah, okay, I've got to solve this problem, and these problems are solvable this way. So I want to keep us moving, but it was really interesting.
I could talk forever on this or whatever.
Yeah, it was really a great event. Thank you so much to the AAIF and the Linux Foundation for pulling it together and taking it off of our hands, because I can tell you I enjoyed this infinitely more than San Francisco or London, where I was running around trying to make everyone and everything work.
Making sure there's enough seats in each room.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like literally we had to pulling chairs. So yeah, it was fantastic having to attend as an attendee. There is the next big event that's on this, that's sort of the next version of the MCP Summit that we had planned back in the day, is Amsterdam coming up in September. But there is the LF has decided to go dramatically bigger with the MCP Dev Summit. So right away, like in 3 months, we now have our next MCP Dev Summits, and they're all on the road and they're all over the world. Like we have June, there are 2 events coming up in India. So there's the Bangalore and Mumbai. Oh, wow. Yeah, and these are like 2-day, similar size, 1,000-person type events that are bringing sort of the entire ecosystem to India. So I'm just agreed to go and host these. I'll be working the program committee, kind of trying to find all speakers. So if you are interested in speaking, the call for papers is literally just days away. I want to say it closes on the 20th, 4 days from now. And so if you are interested in joining me in India and you want to speak, you want to share what's going on, please submit a talk. If you want to sponsor, there's great opportunities to connect to people who are actually doing really cool AI stuff in both of these. And then we luckily get July off, and then it's Seoul in August, China. We're going to be in Shanghai in September, then Tokyo, then Amsterdam. So September is kind of around the world tour before we come back to the US in October or actually to North America, because we'll be in Toronto for an event on the 5th and 6th in October. And then the next big MCP Dev Summit, Agent Con, is October 22nd in San Jose. So it's and then there's one more before the year ends in Nairobi, Kenya. So we have a kind of a crazy expansion of the summits happening right now. Amazing opportunity for people who are excited to get involved. Honestly, like if you want to be part of the program committee for one of these, if you want to speak at them, this is where, between Angie and I and a lot of the people who sort of started this will be sort of spreading very thin, going to some, going to others. You know, I know David was telling me, oh, I'm going to be in Japan. I'm not sure which other ones I'll make it to. So, you know, we're going to find a lot of room for people who want to get involved, who want to participate, either members of the AIF or people who are building things. So please come and join us and get involved. If you want to find me out there on LinkedIn or something and just ping me and say, please, can I help? The answer is yes. We need a lot of help to pull this off, as any good open source organization does. So with that, let's dive in and get back to the context. We have, as always, been busy with lots and lots of context. We've also posted to the channel, which is actually not at MCP Dev Summit anymore. It is now Agentic AI Foundation, the new channel is. So I'll have to update my slides. But we've posted all the talks from New York, including some amazing keynotes. My favorite being the one from Uber, where they kind of shared their entire journey with MCP and how fundamental it is to how they're doing things. But we've published all those. You can see them now. I will certainly put in the chat the actual link. But if you're finding it on YouTube, you're in the right channel. Yeah, we've got some great talks this week. Next week, we're gonna have Walmart on, which I'm super excited to hear about, and about sort of how they're building AI. But today's talk is going to be fantastic. We have Kelly Gage here from Pipe17. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. I am super excited for your talk. I know you're going to share with us a little bit about what agentic commerce is looking like right now, some of the different standards that are emerging, and kind of how you see this developing going forward. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks. Glad to be here. And I apologize in advance. Right before we went live, I hit enter, trying a big test bench on Opus 4.7, as one does when it drops. And it has destroyed the CPU on my computer, and it's not pausing. So if I'm a little laggy, it's because I have the
blame the AI.
It's perfect.
Always the model's fault now. All latency is the model's fault. It's great. We have we can write as bad a software as you want because the model is so latent.
Yeah, all right. So many years not caring what my client side laptop was, and now suddenly I really have to care about it.
Yeah,
so it eats CPU.
All right. Well, if you've got your slides ready, why don't we get them on the stage and we'll give you the floor.
All right. So let me hit share. Hold on 1 second here. And let's go ahead and get started. Agentic commerce. There we go. All right, I got it. And you can see my screen here.
Yep, your stuff looks great.
All right, awesome. All right. Well, thanks for having me. I want to go through agentic commerce and explain what it is and the hype, and there's a little reality happening here, but I'll walk you all through it. A little bit of background on me. So I'm president of Pipe17, and at a very high level, we are order management. So we have this network of more than 300 nodes. We connect up to selling channels like Shopify and TikTok and Amazon, and we connect up to ERPs, and then we connect up to warehouse management systems and 3PLs. So think of us almost as the Plaid of commerce, basically. Before that, I was chief product officer at Commerce Tools. And that's a leading commerce platform. I'm president and co-founder of the Mock Alliance, which is an industry consortium, including Google and Amazon and Stripe and a bunch of others. Was product manager for microservices at Oracle. So definitely seen one of these MCP type waves before. 4-time O'Reilly author. I've written books about microservices, APIs, cloud, and GraphQL. And if I had more time in the day, I would have done one a year ago on MCP, but we only have so many hours in the day, right? And I was also an architect with ATG. And my general thesis is the web is dying. It is a mess to use as a consumer. And every page you go to, you get hit with cookie consent banners. And we can thank Europe and California for that one. But, you know, so many obnoxious, obtrusive banners. We see ads everywhere. Retail media has really polluted what we see and made it very hard to actually get relevant search results. And if you don't believe me, go to bestbuy.com and search for TV, for example, and you will see just garbage ads all over the place. Amazon's the same thing. Walmart's the same thing. It's just ads everywhere you look, and it's really bad. You also see a lot of SEO garbage as well. So if you go to Google and search for how to make pancakes, you will see page after page after page of recipe, and they all follow the same basic pattern, which is, they'll talk about their grandma's favorite pancake recipe, and they used to wake up at 6 a.m. on Sundays to make pancakes with their grandma, and these pancakes are the best, and I feed them to my kid. And it's page after page after page after page of just slop, and now it's all AI slop too, to game search engines, right? So, and you see this across the board with e-commerce generally. It's all just AI slop. And then also you see a lot of pop-ups and banners all over the place. So most websites you go to, you're greeted with a cookie consent banner, and then you're greeted with a join our mailing list banner. So you already have to click away from two things. And then on that page, you see ads and SEO. So I really believe the web is a declining experience just generally. It's very frustrating. And over time, what we've seen is commerce has shifted from the brand.com to other surfaces. And we saw this with the rise of TikTok specifically. TikTok is $87 billion by itself in gross merchandise value, which is how much you sell. Huge source of sales. But you see Instagram, you see X now starting to do sales. You see a lot of social places selling things these days. You also see a lot of marketplaces these days. So there's Amazon, there's Walmart. You see things like Etsy, for example, Wayfair, Overstock. There are a lot of different marketplaces out there. You can sell through all of them. And then now we're starting to see agentic commerce really rise as a selling channel. But look, basically, we're seeing a big fragmentation of where people are buying stuff from. People are buying things from all over the place. And it's not as much of a destination anymore where you go to a brand.com. Instead, you're often just buying things, often impulsively, as you are spending time on social media or whatever it happens to be. And if you look at the web in like 96, I don't know if your audience is old enough to remember this, maybe not, but I do, as I was 11 then, and I do have very early memories of the web back then. But 96, 97, 98, you start to see this big shift, and we've seen this happen in AI chatbots as well, and the responses from these chatbots. So you see today, chatbots look a lot like the web does in 1996, right? So you see a lot of text, you see a couple images, you see some hyperlinks, really straightforward. What you see quickly in ChatGPT, for example, is it's evolving from that to a fully featured web experience with buy it now buttons, payment buttons. You see a lot more images, carousels. And I firmly believe that the web is turning into, or ChatGPT specifically is turning into the web. The web is almost an iframe within ChatGPT, if that makes sense. And I believe directionally this is correct. It's a quote from Roy Rubin, who's the co-founder of Magento, which is Adobe's commerce platform. He said the next billion-dollar direct-to-consumer brand will not have a website. And I think that's probably directionally true. We've had as seen on TV brands for a long time. And I think there are these brands that, they're only selling through one channel or through digital channels only. And they may not have a .com because there's no reason for them to. You think of somebody like Anker Batteries, right? ANKER, right? Very well-known battery brand. That's basically a Walmart-only brand at this point, right? And you could argue they do have a website, but you could argue why do they even bother having a website at this point? Because their stuff is only for sale basically through these other channels. And I would be willing to bet it's 99% of their sales come from Amazon and a couple other channels. It's not the brand.com itself. And my daughter is very fond of telling me that websites are for old people. And it hurts me when she says that, but I think it's true. Websites are, right? You almost have to have an actual laptop to access them. It means you have to actually sit down and pay attention. It's just a pretty antiquated way of shopping. People don't use the web as much anymore. And if they do use the web, the number one most visited page is a product detail page. And it's because the discovery is happening somewhere else, and then people get bounced to a product detail page, right? And it might be in a WhatsApp group, it might be a text messaging thread, it might be a Reddit thread, but they're being dumped to a PDP. And then on the PDP, you now have a NASCAR option of buy it now buttons with Apple Pay and Shop Pay and all sorts of other options. So you see a lot of this disintegration of the web, and it's being reconstituted in ChatGPT specifically. And that whole funnel is just collapsing entirely, right? We used to go to a brand.com, used to discover things, and then go all the way down to the purchase flow. And you discover, you'd go to category pages, you'd evaluate different options, you'd go to a product detail page, you'd go to a cart page, and then you'd go through your four-step checkout. And I think this chart on the right is fascinating. You know, the time spent to complete a transaction. It used to be a long time. You'd sit in a store for a long time, and now it is literally just seconds that it takes. I remember my one project I worked on when I was an architect with ATG. We'd see this giant spike in traffic at like 10, 11 p.m., midnight on Friday nights and Saturday nights specifically. And if you look at the things people were buying then, they would buy all the expensive stuff that they wouldn't otherwise buy throughout the rest of the week. And it doesn't take too much to figure out what's happening. People drink on Friday and Saturday night, and they get impulsive and they buy stuff. And the web just makes it so more difficult to do that with social commerce specifically, and the expedited checkout options these days. It's far, far, far easier to do impulse buys with or without alcohol than it ever used to be. I mean, you just have to Apple Pay stuff now if you really want to. So I expect to see that trend continue. We are unfortunately human. So next is to sell things through AI. You basically have 4 buckets of things to worry about. The first is you need to actually take the products and you need to push them up to the AI head. And when I talk about an AI head, I mean, think of, and I say ChatGPT specifically because it has the most consumer mind share, but think of ChatGPT specifically. You're going to that head, and you as a shopper are going through and you're buying something. So you need to be able to surface up your data and functionality there. You also need payments processing, so you need to attach it to a wallet of some sort. You need security. You sometimes need a way for folks to log in. You need a way for folks to add loyalty points. On the product data side, you need to enrich that data specifically for AI. And there are some vendors out there. I'm actually an advisor to one, which is called Refi Buy. And they and others do this interesting thing where they'll take a pair of skis, for example, and there'll be one SKU, right, as a pair of skis, and they'll create 10,000 variants of that SKU, right? It's SEO, right, basically. And one variant of the ski will be best skis for beginner in Aspen. Another will be intermediate skis for beginner in Tahoe. Another one will be nighttime skis for beginner in Alaska, right? And they'll create 1,000 variants of this single product. And that's so that when you go to ChatGPT and you say, what are the best beginner skis for nighttime skiing in Alaska, right? Kind of an obscure thing. It'll actually pop up your specific pair of skis, hopefully, which you can then buy. And then finally, on the fulfillment side, and this is where I spend my day, we have to surface up inventory from the actual third-party logistics providers and warehouse management systems. You also have to surface up shipping time. So how long, if I want to buy something, you then need to go figure out how long it takes to actually pull that item, which warehouse it's being pulled from, how long it takes to stuff in a box and ship it. And then the carrier, how long it takes the carrier to actually pick up the box and deliver the box to your house. Because people won't buy stuff if they don't know how long it takes. And if it takes, 5 days, that's a very big change versus a day, right? It's a big meaningful difference there. And you need to be able to surface up actual estimated delivery dates from authoritative data. And that gets very challenging to do at scale. So you need to surface that up. And then when an order is captured through an AI head, like ChatGPT, it needs to be stuffed down into the supply chain. And that's what we do at Pipe17. But that's where it gets really challenging, is you have to Actually, it's not enough just to capture the order. You actually have to do something with that order meaningfully. And that's where things get complicated at scale. All right. Any questions so far? Oh, I should probably pause here.
No, I think like this is great. The only question I have sort of right now is like how, I mean, my first thought is just like how fast is this conversion happening? Because it feels like it hasn't happened for me yet, where I'm buying through these agentic things. But I'm curious if I'm just, again, I'm in my 40s, I probably am going to be a late adopter of this technology. Are you seeing that this is actually a meaningful dollar amount today, or is this speculative that we think this is where the future is, which I agree, or has it already happened?
It's complicated. It is today, at least. There's very little agentic commerce in the world, and I largely blame OpenAI. Sorry, I completely blame OpenAI. I hope they're not. They have the most consumer mindshare by far. They committed to doing agentic commerce protocol with Stripe. I would argue they completely half-assed agentic commerce protocol. Did not think through it. They have a very small commerce team that knows nothing about commerce and is not engaging with the rest of the community. It's been quite frustrating to deal with them and that rest of the team. And they did not focus on coding and business use cases and are getting lapped pretty hard by Claude with an Anthropic. And about 2 months ago, they publicly said that they are going to step back and focus more on the core product and pivot more to business use cases. And as a result, they were pausing agentic commerce and a couple other things. They then went out and spent a couple $100 million and bought a podcast, which, whatever. They bought a personal finance app and that whole team. So they keep saying publicly that they're paring back, but then they keep doing what I would consider quite impulsive and not strategic acquisitions.
Which has been very frustrating. Like any other player, because it's like it kind of makes sense where it's like shopping. It's like, well, it's going to follow where you have the most eyeballs. So it's like ChatGPT has so many users, but is anyone else, kind of relevant in trying to do this? Shopify or Amazon themselves or something like that.
Shopify doesn't have a head. That's its problem. It's entirely dependent on Google or ChatGPT. Google actually did a great job with Universal Commerce Protocol, which they co-developed with Shopify. And that brings commerce to all of the surface area of Google, which is quite expansive. So that's a very good step in the right direction, and I'm glad they did that. And I think that's a great move. I think three things are happening, and if you believe these three things, then agentic commerce is a reality. First is we as a species are very consumer driven. We buy lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff. About $1.9 trillion worth of stuff in the US. Everything from apparel to food. Those are all potential e-commerce orders, and many of them are e-commerce orders. So that's the first thing you have to believe. The second is that the web is dying, and I firmly believe that the web is dying. I see evidence of this every day. And the third thing is that AI will rise and replace it. And I'm also seeing that the web is basically being recreated, reconstituted in AI. And I see eyeballs starting to shift very, very, very aggressively to these AI heads. So if you believe those three things,
you also have to believe a little bit that social is declining. Because I mean, I look at my kids, and you're 100% right. Like they buy through TikTok, they buy through TikTok, and they buy through, honestly, through like Roblox and shit. Like I actually would see them buying, if they could buy more stuff on Roblox, they would probably buy more stuff on Roblox, or in-app, in-universe consumption is definitely there. Again, assuming they probably won't be on Roblox when they're in their 20s, but they are when they're in their 10, 12, 14. I just wonder if that impulsiveness fits as well with AI. only because like you have to, like AI 100% makes sense when I'm trying to find a good pair of skis, right? Like I do research through AI, but I don't know if that impulsiveness, like I don't go to AI for anything but questions. Like by its nature, it's a place where I ask a question and get an answer and then engage. And I know there are people who have different relationships with AI than I do. So there are people who use AI for more, companionship and other things. But I do think most people I know are still in the phase where AI has replaced the Google search bar, which again makes sense for products that I'm researching. But I don't know, does it make sense for the impulsive buys that I make on Instagram and my kids make on TikTok, and like how much that has replaced where I find clothes, where I find dive gear, where I find skis, where I find things that I care about personally. They all seem to be, I still feel like social is on the rise and is not at all dying compared to web, which I think I could completely agree is dying.
Yeah, I think social will continue to do well, because that's where our eyeballs are, and we're impulsive and lazy as humans. I think marketplaces will continue to do well, and I think AI will continue to do well. You also have to realize in the US, we're only at like 17-ish% of penetration of physical retail for e-commerce. And in most developed markets like the UK and South Korea, it's like 50 something percent. So we have a long, long, long way to go in just e-commerce usage. And again, you look at kids, sorry, I sound old now, but kids these days, right? They spend a lot more online. They're much more comfortable with it. It's very native for them to buy things online. There's still a lot of people above the age of 50, 60 who won't touch e-commerce, right? They want to go into a store and touch things physically. They just don't do it. So the actuarial tables will correct that over time.
I think there's also, like, to be fair, I think one of the things that's happened that, a lot of people got converted by AWS, right? I'm sorry, Amazon, because Amazon allowed you to take, buy and really de-risked, both because you got it fast and because you could return it easily. And I think those two pieces are not nearly as universal as I think there was a perception that those would become much more universal. But I can tell you right now, even my kids, they already are running into, oh, I bought this on TikTok and it sucked, and it's the wrong size and it doesn't fit, and I can't return it easily. It's a pain in the ass. And there's a decline without that Amazon safety net that I think I wonder why, and I'm hoping that companies like yours can maybe help deliver that sort of easier return, easier guarantee that I don't, because my wife also, she still is very, like, she buys a lot online. She's a big shopper, and yet she also constantly buys the wrong thing and constantly hates it and constantly has to send it back. And now she goes to Target or Costco as well. No. And they're pretty important parts of her. I just need it, and I need to make sure it's the right size, and I make sure it fits and stuff. And I wonder if AI is going to make that better or worse, because I don't know.
I think AI is the ultimate personalization engine, because AI knows your calendar, it knows your pictures, and if you've gained or lost weight. It knows your style or lack of style. It knows how much you have in your bank account. It has every single fact of life about you. It knows that you're going on a cruise pretty soon and probably don't have a shirt, right? It knows everything about you. So it's much better able to make recommendations. And what I'd like to see AI start to do, and I think it will soon, is say, hey, idiot, you're coming up on a cruise and there's a white theme night. You don't have a shirt for that. Here are some options for you. Right? Like almost the role my wife plays to me. Like, hey, you should probably think about this. Have you considered it?
That's the really tricky thing that the situation that ChatGPT's in right now, where it's like, obviously they want to bring in ads, but then there's this thing of like nobody really wants, they don't want the thing they're talking to then, like Anthropic did that good creepy ad against OpenAI and ChatGPT and so it's like, because I was saying for like that impulse buy or whatever, then like ChatGPT really needs to put in ads, right? Like, I mean, that's the only way you're going to get that, unless they literally put it into the conversation. But that's like such a tricky thing where it's like, you can very quickly,
like if they start to slide into that where it's not clear what's sponsored and what's not sponsored, then I think they will have broken like the biggest taboo in all of the internet, which is just, I mean, we accept that you will advertise us to death. Just make sure it's clear when it's an ad and when it's not an ad.
Correct.
slap
Right.
that sponsored little gray sponsored thing. Even if you show me 12 of them before I can find what I was really looking for, yeah,
Right.
it's because like I think it's pretty clear that like ChatGPT is definitely like kind of like cannibalizing Google in terms of like web search.
Yeah.
But it's like, how much further does it expand past? I mean, obviously, if they took over web search, which is not web search, it's kind of like information, looking up information in the world. That's obviously a huge business in and of itself. But then,
Yeah.
it's like, do they extend? It's like, I don't know what impact does Google Shopping have on shopping in general? Do they really, make a significant dent, in terms of purchases and whatnot?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The other thing is we shop for a lot of different reasons. So clearly we shop for entertainment, right? We shop because it's fun to, you're going on a camping trip and you want to geek out on a tent and figure out what tent to get. And like, it's perfect for that. Works really well. But like, I've got a gigantic dog who needs a very specific brand of dog food every month.
Yeah.
And like, I just want to delegate to my agent, hey, go buy me the cheapest dog food and make sure I don't run out. And here's how much you can spend on this. Go find the best price, reasonable SLA. Go do it for me. I never want to think about ordering dog food ever again. Right. And that like is long term for a lot of use cases. You think of your grocery order, imagine Alexa not being stupid and you being able to talk to your Alexa.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say the new Alexas has become, oddly enough, in my house, it's become the second most commonly used LLM after OpenAI. It's really getting used. I see my kids asking it about homework, like, hey,
remind me. I had the worst experience with the new Alexa. Oh,
really? No, it's kind of like,
made the
recipes, cooking. Like, I think we found it pretty good. Like, it's definitely stuck more than I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be just like a real, like the Siri version, which is not good at all. I thought that the Alexa one's been pretty good.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I was trying to buy a projector where it's like I just needed a digital projector, which I don't know anything about them, and had a very specific use case for it. And I tried AI to do that, and I was very happy because like I did it first. I go to Amazon and I'm like, projectors, and like, a bajillion Chinese brands pop up. I know no idea what's good. They all look this, it's like. So then I went to AI, and it very quickly like weeded through. It was kind of like, to a certain degree, I had to trust where it's like, is there something I'm not seeing? I might be missing something. But it was like, I felt it did an extremely good job of tailoring it. And then I had another similar experience where I was trying to buy a rack for my car. So I'm like, I have this car and this bike. And it narrowed it down to exactly like, this is what you need. This is what I want. This will fit onto your car. So that was so like in terms of like a buying experience where it's like, it's not impulse or whatever. It's just like me going out and looking. Right. I really like that because I think I can't stand it today. Like I feel like the Amazon today is kind of like too much in favor of the seller, not the buyer. Yes. And it's just like, no, like I'm just overwhelmed with it. Unless it's like I know the product and the brand, like that's the best. When I go to Amazon, I already know what I want because then I just get it cheap, free shipping or whatever. But if I don't know what I want, it's the worst place to. I'll go to Target, their website, because then I'm like, oh, I kind of trust, like that they're going to put better products in front of me. Like similar thing with like Costco. It's like Costco knows, it's like, oh, I'll go to Costco because I know they sell, they put the time and effort into putting it in their store. It's probably pretty good,
Yeah, one would hope. Although I heard a Darknet Diaries episode last night when they talked about these magic TV devices. Have you heard of these things?
No.
It's these boxes basically, and you get bootleg TV, like full access to every movie. And anyway, they were just talking about the fact that these were actually just riddled with Chinese spyware. And
yeah. All of that stuff. Yeah. Like,
but those were available in Walmart and Best Buy, by the way, in physical stores for years. For like 9 years, they were available. So you can't rely on a Walmart or Best Buy as a credibility guarantee by any means.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of hijacked your presentation, and so
Yeah, sorry.
in danger. If you ask us if we have questions, man, everything goes
Yeah,
through the
I want to
window.
start talking.
But I would say,
I
like,
only have a
I'd love to
couple
hear more
slides.
about what you guys are doing at Pipe17. Just, you know, at least to kind of close up the conversation. What are you? Who should be working with you guys? What kind of services do you offer, and how do you help people navigate this? Because it is a lot, man. It is a lot, and it's a constantly moving target.
Yeah, so we sell to larger brands, so 1 million or 100 million to roughly 1 billion in gross merchandise value. And our typical customer is somebody who, you know, they're on Shopify, maybe they're on Amazon, and they start out and they grow and grow and grow. You know, a lot of direct to consumer brands use us. And they have multiple storefronts then, and then they start selling through multiple marketplaces, and then they start selling through multiple social channels. And then they get big enough where they need an ERP, and then they're fulfilling through multiple 3PL providers because people want their stuff fast. And, you know, you cross that $75-100 million GMV threshold, and at that point, you've got a lot of complexity on the selling channel side and a lot on the fulfillment channel side.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, you can hack it together with an iPaaS, and that's a lot of point-to-point connections. A lot easier just to do hub and spoke with our network. You know, again, think of us more as that Plaid of commerce where you throw orders into our network and then we route them efficiently. So we'll take them from the AI head or Amazon or Shopify or Commerce Tools or any other place you would sell things. We'll grab that order and then we will do all the routing, the splitting, the shipping, the estimated delivery dates. We'll route it to your call center app. You know, a lot of things involved there, and it's stupid stuff. Like, I'll give you a great example. Did you know these AirPods right here?
Mm-hmm.
These technically have batteries in them, and therefore they must be shipped ground, which is an entire different class of shipping. Because if you put these on an airplane, the FAA freaks out. So, like, that is a rule. Whenever you ship something with lithium-ion batteries, it has to be shipped ground, and there are 1,000 of these rules out there. You know, there's stuff that's sensitive to hot. There's stuff that's sensitive to cold. There's stuff that's sensitive to rain. There's size constraints. You know, what fits in a U.S. mailbox. You know, and that dictates carrier selection in many cases. You know, even things like, well, okay, Shannon, you're a VIP customer. We're going to make sure that everything gets to you, you know, next day, and we're not going to charge you the premium for the shipping. But like Darren, you're just you're a window shopper, and we've seen your demographic behavior before, and you're really cheap, and you're never going to come back again. So, like, you know, USPS for you can see it in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's how you get profitability in stores. You reward your best customers, and the rest of them you optimize for cost.
Kelly, how much are you seeing I mean, I'm super curious about that function, because dealing with all of these, I mean, it is a much more dynamic vendor landscape than it ever has been. You know, I mean, when we were kids, you know, you'd have the same brands year after year after year after year in dominant positions, and now you take almost any category and it's like it's dramatically more competitive, dramatically more dynamic. So for you guys, do you see this like in real time as you're seeing your clients, where they're like, I mean, Allbirds has sort of been in the news this week because they, I guess, just sold off their shoe business and raised some money to become an AI company. And I was just like, oh, I didn't even realize they were doing badly. Like, I still see their stores. I'm not a customer, so I didn't have that much of an insight on them. But I was like, whoa, I thought they were doing well. And then as I read this article about this, I was like, oh no, they're doing really poorly and they're struggling in a more competitive landscape. And whatever made their shoes popular 4 years ago, 5 years ago is gone. Are you finding this as well, that the brands are coming and going at a pace that has heretofore never been seen?
Well, Allbirds is actually one of our customers, so that's led to some interesting discussions the past few days.
Yeah.
But you know, what's interesting about technology in general is the price has plummeted in the past 20 years of tech. So, you know, Jevons paradox, right? Whereas the price of something falls, the demand for it increases. You've heard of it before. You've seen the same thing happen with e-commerce. You know, historically, going back to the 90s and 2000s, you'd pay 3-4% of your gross merchandise value to just your commerce platform, right? And now you get a commerce platform for like 0.3%, right? Like 10x cheaper. And across the board, software has gotten much, much, much less expensive. It's also gotten much, much, much better. And what that's led to is the cost to start up a brand has completely plummeted. So now if you two want to go in business together, you could pull up your Claude or your ChatGPT and you say, and I want to build an outdoor lumberjack fused with a biker streetwear brand. I'm just making that up, right? So imagine your lumberjack biker streetwear brand, right? And it will come up with a brand name, a logo. You can have it create mock-ups of your shirts. You can then go to any type of outsourced clothing manufacturer and create an order for 10,000 of these things, have them drop ship directly. You can stand up a Shopify site for $100 a month. All the payments are completely done for you. You can get a CMS for a couple bucks. I mean, literally a couple dollars a month, right? Across the entire stack, you can have solo entrepreneurs who are building actual brands and actual businesses. And what that's done is it's led to this giant proliferation of brands. And if you go to Amazon, it's almost like a word salad of these brands sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it really is.
Made up, which they are. And what that's done is it's led to many, many more brands, which is great. It's also led to trust in specific brands increasing as well. So Hermes, for example, doing fantastically well. All those big luxury brands, because they actually stand for something and they mean something in an era when any idiot can create a brand from scratch.
Yeah.
So again, you just end up with this weird paradox of price plummeting, many more brands, but also then more trust in actually established brands.
And yet these new brands do seem to kind of like, sometimes they jump, right? Like there's a percentage of them that make it, oddly. Like, I mean, you're right that but they're always displacing. I feel like for every, new brand, Aloe or something that jumps out and becomes a brand, there's a displacement of Reebok, or there's a New Balance. Somebody is losing share as we gain. Like there's not more shoes being sold, or maybe there's a little more shoes, but not.
I think there are actually more shoes being sold.
You think so? I don't know. Not. I mean, maybe more, but more cheaper, and like is people's shoe budget gone way up? Maybe
no. Like I look at
the markets continue to expand, right? I mean, we just sell more.
I mean, but that's the Allbirds issue. Is like you get the success, you get the thing, you start to open physical stores, and suddenly you're over your skis, and now it's declined, and you're selling the whole thing off for nothing.
My wife, no doubt, probably has 30 pairs of shoes. She constantly buys shoes, and you go back 2 generations, people had 2 pairs of shoes. They had their Sunday church.
But like my wife had 30 pairs of shoes back in the 80s. I think people still, like, people went to Payless shoe stores and they went to Macy's and they bought them on sale. And like there was always people that had 30 pairs of shoes. And I think there's still people that have 30 pairs of shoes. But I don't know. Do you think like shoes as a percentage of your budget has changed? I don't think it
Consumer prices on that stuff have plummeted.
Yeah, that's what's changed, is that you can get a lot of, but I mean, they're not cheaper than Payless. I could always get cheap shoes at Payless. I could always buy local. I think quality's gone up too. I think that actually what you get for your money has definitely improved. Those Payless shoes,
like Shein and Temu, right? I mean, that stuff is so cheap; it's almost disposable. And yeah, you're right. Quality has certainly gone up across the board, but like, there's so much crap you can get on Shein and Temu these days.
It's a really interesting time to be in commerce. I'm sure for you guys it must be dynamic and interesting, and I am very curious because one of the things that came out of the MCP Dev Summit is I think that the your point about the AI experience getting richer and us being able to see products and to like go from just chat to something that has more UI is clearly being realized very quickly as people are kind of investing in MCP apps, MCP UI in these areas. But it does feel to me too like we're still in the really earliest days of this, and I hope you're right. I really do hope that I wouldn't be disappointed if Amazon did a full overhaul and just kind of looked at their business and completely changed the buying experience. Maybe less in favor of the ads, less in favor of the sponsored, and more in favor of the buyer's stickiness. It's probably time. I mean, if I'm an Amazon product executive right now, is probably the time to say like, okay, we got to do something. We got to start introducing a new experience to keep
I mean, it's better suited by someone else, though. I mean, Amazon.
It is. But
too much
again,
momentum.
Amazon has all of my buying history. Amazon
I would
knows
take
me.
an incredibly gutsy CEO.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, but the problem is,
or you're saying Microsoft is better positioned to do it than Amazon? That's kind of
No. I'm saying someone else. You know,
I know, but I'm saying like somebody like Satya, maybe, you know, you just need that person to come to Amazon. And suddenly, you know, Microsoft was unwilling to change, and then suddenly they weren't, and it saved their whole company and turned them into what they are today, which is
I know. But I think Microsoft's
leader
in that way. I mean, not a lot of.
that's a rare bird, though. That very hard to find. What you find far more often is they bring in the finance MBAs. I hope neither of you have finance MBAs, but you know, they bring in the finance MBA to revert back to the mean, and you get, you know, the old guy in a suit syndrome.
Just extract value.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Bezos is likely to be the one that's going to change Amazon, unfortunately. Kelly, this was really fun, man. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us, going through all this. It was great. You know, anywhere else you want to send people just to learn more?
LinkedIn is, I'm reasonably active there. But yeah, stop on by, say hello.
All right. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for joining us today. This was really fun. We'll see you next week. We'll have Walmart on next week, so we can maybe ask them what they're doing.
Yeah, they might know something.
All right. Take care, Kelly.